Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat. I'm Karen Scott Green.
And I'm Kat Hardrick.
And we are here today with JeJuan Stewart. JeJuan is the CEO and founder of Eagle 7 Consulting. Thank you, JeJuan.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
It is my pleasure, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we know JeJuan from being a local here in Gwinnett County. She is active and involved and has been in Gwinnett County for several decades. So JeJuan, tell us about the work that you do and about Eagle 7 Consulting.
Once again, thank you for allowing me to be on your program today. It's really an honor. And one of the things that I tend to focus on with Eagle 7 Consulting is really tied into the name, empowering all to give, lead, and excel. And I really take that to heart because I think it's so important that people are poured into and given resources and support in their journey. So a lot of what I focus on currently is parent empowerment, parent coaching, and supporting parents in their journey in different capacities, whether it be for them personally as an individual trying to figure out their parenting why, or in the case of some parents, just trying to figure out what season they're in and how they can make the most of it with their family, getting prepared for the next season that's coming up. And do that in a number of different ways through one-on-one coaching, group coaching, as well as events. I put on different types of events called pep talks and pep rallies, parent engagement pop-ups to really spur and sharpen the skills of parents when it comes to engaging with others, because we know in today's time it's really hard to connect with other people outside of your comfort zone, so to speak.
Yeah, this is true.
Sometimes we're not going to grow unless we really do that. So I enable parents and empower them to be able to do those things.
Okay. Yeah. So you recently had a PEP, parent engagement pop-up, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So what is included in all of that?
I'm so glad you asked. The pep talk, and there are two different forms that I use for this. One is a pep talk, which is a little bit more intimate. It's a smaller setting, but it allows parents to be able to come together, and I do teaching on particular areas of focus. Sometimes it might be in regards to developing your relationship with your child and how to do that more effectively, giving you some skills and resources and tools to enhance what you already have. The pep rally is a little bit larger in the sense that it allows parents to meet with other like-minded parents throughout Metro Atlanta and beyond. And I usually invite some of my special guests and friends who are, first of all, parents of like mind, but they also are professionals in their areas to come and speak to parents on specific topics. In the past, we've discussed where it comes to talking about health and wellness, especially for parents in this day and time, post-COVID, so to speak, and then also dealing with different issues of education or finance. Just usually I reach out to my core group of parents and say, okay, what's on your heart? What's on your mind? What's going on? And we take our topics from there.
How do you find the families that you work with?
A lot of times the families find me. It's word of mouth. A lot of times it's just relationship driven. I have been in this community, like you had alluded to earlier, for over 30 years. And so a lot of those relationships that I've developed with parents and nurturing and working with them or their children in a number of different ways has allowed that opportunity. I also have parents referred to me from different organizations and groups. Like I work in conjunction with Boys and Girls Club, work in conjunction with other nonprofit, smaller nonprofit agencies and groups that have expressed a need to really reach out, especially to their Black and Brown parents, to engage them more, I say intentionally, when it comes to building relationships and helping those parents sort out, what are the hindrances, what are the bumps on the road, and learning how to overcome them. So it's a lot with that too, just building relationships, and a number of them are referred.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How does your program with the parent engagement, with all of the concerns that we have as parents with our children in school? We are very passionate about all children. I'm in the South Gwinnett cluster. My girl here is in Shiloh. And I know we hear so much about bullying and violence in the schools. How can we get these parents engaged so that we can have the village come together, the children who may be repeat offenders, because we have to meet people where they are and find out their why. There has to be a reason why these children are behaving this way. So from your experience in dealing with parents, how do you perceive being able to address that issue?
Well, that could take us all day long to talk about. You know that, right? I'm just
we have 30 minutes.
Right.
That's not an easy question to address, and it's really the heart of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I have found, and I too, full disclosure, I'm a Shiloh mom, a Shiloh parent. All of my children graduated from Shiloh, and I understand the challenges that parents are going through in this season in a number of different ways. But I feel like there are some things that we could do to, as a community,
Mm-hmm.
to really provide a space and a setting that is there for healthy dialogue,
Okay,
and healthy engagement. So we're not just hearing from other parents that are just in the same place where I'm at. Because if I'm in a rut and you're in a rut, we're not going to help each other out. Okay, we have to really. I'm sorry.
My mind was also working on a question at the same time because something else came up when you were saying that. And that I met you, Catherine had already met you, but I met you at the Shiloh Community Association, where the community got together and we were bringing some of our concerns so that we could find solutions. Because I'm tired of people talking about everything that's wrong
all day.
We want to meet with people who are doing the work, who have found solutions, and that are doing
ready
it
to implement.
Yeah, because we can get together and complain all the time, but we were looking for solutions. So how does that work with the Shiloh Community Association fit in with what you're doing?
Well, I have to remember, because I wear so many different hats, not to overlap them too much. Okay. So you brought it up. I didn't do it, so that's fine. I'll take the liberty to do a plug for the Shiloh Community Foundation. And as the president for the Shiloh Community Foundation, and being a community member for many, many years, it is my passion and my purpose and my hope to help to strengthen and build relationships with neighborhood community groups, the schools and businesses within our area, to address those areas and those needs that we have. My goal is to bring people together and to allow them to express what they see as some of our critical points, the critical areas of impact, things that we could do better in, things that we're really good in, and things that where we are at that can be, we want to strive and achieve and aim towards as a group together, as a community organization. Now, me as a consultant coming in from this mindset, from my vantage point, is the number one: get the parents, invite them to the table, have them there, speak to their needs, ask them to just, what are you lacking? What could the community bring to you that would make it easier on you as a parent? What are the things that you wish that you had? Because a lot of people are coming here from so many different areas, and they bring their preconceived notions of what they think a neighborhood should be like. Then when they come here and it's not that, then it's like, okay, I'm going to fall apart because it's not what I wanted.
Or I'm going to move because it's not what I thought it was going to be.
Come to the table and tell us what can be better.
Yeah.
How can we make it better? We are here, and you may not know how to reach those people, but that's why you join an association like ours, because we have a relationship with these people that you want to build. You have an issue
Absolutely.
with something in your school, then let's sit down and let's have a dialogue. Let's talk about, not just talk about it, but come with a solution, come
Yes.
with an idea,
Instead of
and then
just
let
getting on
us.
social media talking about what's wrong at the school, what's wrong in the subdivision, what's wrong in the neighborhood, let's come with
And
solutions.
and I think a lot of it ties into really communicating with our children.
Mm,
We have to, our
that
children know
part.
what's going on. I
Yeah.
My children would come home and tell me stuff. And my husband, and they would be like, "We're very concerned about XYZ.
Mhm.
This wasn't fair. That wasn't fair. Why wasn't?" And so that opened up dialogue and a time for us to be able to engage with them and find out more from their perspective as a young person, and really taking heed to that and saying, okay, it's not just, you're just not blowing off steam. There seems to be something, an undercurrent here. Let's see how we can do this. How can we still solve this together? What can we do to provide a space for you to be able to grow and learn from this experience? Because believe me, we're not the only community going through this.
Absolutely. But
I mean, it may not be all out there for everybody, but
that
I
loud
know
saying.
that we are not the only ones. So
Yeah.
let's just be real. Let's just be, transparent, and let's be authentic and say, okay, I'm still here for a reason. I had
Mhm.
many of my neighbors move for many, many years. I've been here since 1994. So I've seen the highs and the lows and all the
Yes.
ups and downs and the ins and the outs. And I've had people ask me, JeJuan, are you leaving? Are you moving? I said, why?
Right.
I'm embedded here.
Like, this is
My
my
family,
community.
You're invested.
exactly. If
And
I
why
don't like something, then I'm here to change it. If
and why
I
should I move to a community that don't want you there anyway? Right?
well,
That maybe you might
that's a whole nother conversation,
uh,
right?
Yeah.
yeah, that a little bit of it we'll have right now, right? We
But
know there are people who want you
I
there,
understand what you're
and
talking
I'm
about,
ready to fight for where I'm at now.
but
So
I agree. I totally agree. I totally get it. But I think it's a matter of equipping parents with the power
Yeah.
and the authority and the confidence to say, yes, I this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'd like to see addressed. How do I go about doing this? And I really would rather work with you than struggle against you. So
Mhm.
how do we come to terms with each other and work together on these things? And
so
I
do
mean,
you have with your program, what types of tools do you give parents to prepare themselves to have these dialogues with their educators, with the school board, and so forth, so that they can advocate for their children?
well, you know what? To be honest with you, I don't prepare them to have those dialogues in the first setting in
Mm.
what I do. I
Mhm.
divide up what I do into two areas of focus
Okay.
points. The first one is becoming a light to your family.
Hmm.
You have to light your own candle,
Okay.
okay,
What
before you can go out there trying to light everybody else's
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
shine
clean up
a
your
light
own
on the whole
backyard.
thing. It starts home first.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my vantage point.
okay.
Okay.
So
So
what are
I
some
look at it.
practical things that a parent can do to be a light in their own family?
Mm-hmm.
I think it starts with coming to an awareness of
Mhm.
who you are as a parent and your own parenting why. Why are you a parent? Why is it
Mm.
important to you? What legacy are you leaving your family and your child? What are you teaching them? What aspects of your parenting skills and things like that you derive from something that maybe was not very healthy for
Mhm.
you, and you're bringing it into your family and it's not working and you haven't quite figured out how to weed that out? How are you and what will you do to make it better for your family than it was for you?
JeJuan, do you do any work with your parents about parenting with joy?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's something I didn't know about growing up. I mean, not that my parents,
Right.
because they certainly weren't hateful, and
Mm-hmm.
they loved us in the way that they knew and that the way that they know how to show love. Um, but it was very different in the way that I parented my children. And even from my oldest son, who's my first child, and I was a young mom when I had him. And I felt like with him, I was going through the motions a lot of
Mhm.
times. I was
You just
working, I was going to school, I was
you
so
were
busy doing,
surviving.
yes, I was in
Mm-hmm.
survival mode. And then when I had my last two, I had the time to be present. I had the time to be involved, to be engaged. And I I don't know where I came up with the term, but when I was parenting them, I realized that I was parenting with joy this time. That I actually had the luxury and the time to do that I didn't have with my oldest son. And so I was just wondering if you do any of that work with the parents that you work with, like parenting from a different mindset of what they were taught and what they know.
That's exactly what I do.
Wow.
And I call it empowered to parent. That's what I
Empowered
call it,
parent. Okay.
because you tend to parent the same way that you've been parented
Yes.
for so long, and we cannot do the same things because we're living in different times. Our
Yes.
children are going into different times. We're pairing I'm a believer. And so as a believer, what I tend to look at is I see my children as arrows, just like the
Mhm.
Bible talks about. And they're going to go further than I went. So I can't teach them based on what I was taught and today. I
Okay.
have to parent them with a sense of the future.
Mhm.
And so there are some things innately in them, whether it be creatively wise, the way they think, the way they're processing things, that are going to be so effective for the future. Right now, we
Yeah.
might be butting heads, but those skill sets and
Mhm.
those things that they're doing and learning, I can help them to navigate those
Mhm.
things so it can be effective in their future.
Yes.
And so those are the things that I am learning, I had to learn,
Okay.
and that I hope to be able to impart to the parents that I share with and I talk to. And then the other thing too is that I realize that a lot of what we need as parents is really within our community. A community of parents pours into each other. And we don't
Mhm.
have that sense of community like we used to have years and years ago. And
No.
so we are entitled now to be a little bit more exclusive about our community.
Mhm.
We can choose who we want to listen to and who we don't, whether it be a
Yeah.
podcast or I listen to Brene Brown. I love her teaching and things like that. I listen to a lot of different things like TD Jakes and I get poured into from a number of resources. And then I
Yeah.
have to choose what is going to be applicable for my family, for me. And it may not be the same thing that's for you and your family. I
This is
have to
true.
be okay with that. I can't compare and say, "Oh man, Kat's got it all together, man. I wish I had it that I should have done it like that." No, you are
Yeah.
training and equipping your child for the season and the things they're going into for a reason. You're
That's
their
right.
parent for a reason.
Yeah.
So those are things that you're gonna have to really come to terms with. And there'll be some things that you were maybe taught that you're gonna say, "Hey, I can't do that for
Like
these.
this doesn't work
It's not
anymore.
gonna work."
This
It's
doesn't
not.
work.
Mm-mm.
And to the point that you made,
Mhm.
in the spaces that we are in at the time we have children, as parents, you may have, and what I'm finding when I talk to parents, they have so much on their plates. It's not that, like, one of the worst things for me when people say bad parenting, I get that people may not understand or see some of the errors that they may make. I'm guilty of that. I always say I was a parent in progress, right? I was a work in progress.
We
I'm
all are.
constantly learning, and I'm still learning today how to be better, how to build relationships, how to parent adult children, right? Because they're not kids, it's a
All
different
different
mindset.
things.
Exactly.
So you got to shift from
Mhm.
being the provider to, them being your dependents, to respecting them as their own independent individual that you help create, right? You want them to be a person who can think for themselves and so forth.
Yeah.
But to your point, when you made the analogy of where you were in your headspace with your first child,
Mhm.
and how God had guided your life to the point where now you could parent from a space where you had time. You still was able to whatever take care of your lifestyle to where you can say, I'm taking off work today. I'm going to go to this event. I'm going to go to this award program. I'm going to do XYZ. And the reality of it is, so many of our kids right now, the parents don't have time for
Yeah,
that.
this is true.
If they don't work, they don't eat. And
Mhm.
some kids are coming home, they're taking care of their other siblings by the time their parents get home. So that's an element of just life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why parents parent out of survival. So
Mhm.
as a village, how do we come in with your organization, with Eagle, with the other organization you said with Shiloh? How can we partner with you to help create a village. You know,
Mhm.
I know we're doing our part. We mentor at the schools. We do a lot of nonprofits with her church and everything. Karen does stuff through her organization. I do stuff on my own. How can people right now listening to this podcast and beyond partner with you so that they can help be a part of that village, so that we can help families, the children, the parents, and be that village?
And thank you for that question. That's a really very poignant one. I believe there are a number of the ways that we can do that. And I'm not saying that I'm the only one out there doing this work like this, because there are many parent coaches out there. But I do believe that the way that we approach it is unique for our culture and our children and our parents. Okay. And I think what is important is to start with just volunteering.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just volunteer.
Out of that.
I think in a lot of times the different school settings and things like that, as a parent, I may not show up because until there's a problem.
Yeah.
But if I could wire myself in such a way, rewire the way I do things, and that, you know what, even asking the instructor or the teacher, can I help with it? Is there a project coming up? Is there something happening? If I have a window of time, it doesn't have to be a lot, but just a window of time to support in some small way.
Yeah.
My mom was an educator. She taught first grade for over 25 years. And I remember as a child thinking, you love those children more than you love us.
No.
Because she would get all of the kind of goodies and
Yeah.
nice things for them, and they get Krispy Kreme donuts, and she's telling us we don't get any. And I'm like, well, we're your kids. And she said, but they don't get this at home. So you all get it all the time. But I'm doing this because this is an opportunity for me.
Yeah.
And they did something really good in class today. And it took me time to appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so learning how we may not have a lot of money, okay? But one of the things I really focus on with my parents that I coach and children that I work with is that you can give of yourself in the small ways, the small things, even if it's a kind word, a gesture, a card, just to let the teacher know that, hey, I'm thinking about you. I know it's tough, but you're on my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm here for you, and I'm praying for you, or I'm thinking about you. Those words of encouragement and affirmations, I know people may sometimes push it off, but it means a lot. It's planting a seed for the future. And that can make a huge difference when it comes to when your child has an issue or something like that. That person's going to remember, oh my gosh, well, you know what? They're not always like this, but I did engage with their parents who they sent me something. Those things make a difference. The relationship that you're developing makes a huge difference. That's kind of where I start. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. We at the kitchen table, we talking. I always say, I'd rather be proactive than reactive. Let's get in these families' lives right now on a good note, because my girl over here is an attorney, and and I want to see you before you see her. Okay. You gonna see us both volunteering.
One of us.
Right. Now she gonna be out there on her grind, but if she got to see you in that courtroom, honey, it's another story. So we're trying to be proactive. And I'd rather spend, just like in my field in health and wellness, I tell people, they say, oh, it's so expensive to eat healthy. Well, it's even more expensive to be sick, right?
That part.
So spend your time, your talent, your God gifts that God has given you. Use it to do good now. When you see these young people, don't just, hurry and pull up your pants. You should just, hey, they don't know you. Say, how you doing, young leader? Yep. How are you? I hope you have a blessed day. Make good choices. And I keep it moving. Next time they see me, hey, young leader, how you doing? Then when they respect me, then I can say, now why you got your pants down?
You have to build that trust in that relationship first.
Yeah. I'm not going to listen to anybody come tell me, Kat, I don't like the way you wear your hair. Well, close your eyes.
That reminds me. No, I was just going to say, I would piggyback on that. That reminds me of that scripture that talks about, take the the beam out of your own eye before you try to take it out of somebody else's.
Yep.
So, that's one of the things that when I'm speaking to parents, like I spoke with a parent group just last week, And one of the things that I shared with them is that, you know what, I've been there. I understand the journey. I know the frustration. I work full time, had 4 children, and I had them in elementary, middle, high school, and college. So I know the struggle and the challenges. I know how also how to barter. If I see something from my child and I want that for them, and the door is not open, I'm going to make a way because I know access to opportunity is a thing that's going to change for their lives. That's
You
going to
teach
help
that?
them. Yes.
Okay, good. No, because a lot of people don't know that.
No, learning how, well, you know, it's because we just don't have these kinds of relationships established. And so learning how to say, you know what, if you see a problem, you see an issue, you see an area of improvement. My children sometimes I would have them signed up for things and they were like, why am I going to this? I don't really care for this. Well, you know what? You're going to learn about it and you're going to come back and tell me what it's like.
Yeah.
Was it good? Was it bad? Indifferent? You don't have to go back again, but you're going to experience it one time. Why? Because if you do it one time, then you have experience to say, I don't like that. I know I don't like it. I've experienced it. It's not good for me. And then I can respect that. Exactly. Exposure is key. It's key to your growth. And so I really try to help parents to understand the same way you're exposing your children to new things, you have to expose yourself to new things. You have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to change your paradigm and your ideas of what you thought was right. If it's not working, don't try and make it fit if it's not working. You know, that's a sign of pure insanity, right? If we always do it, always done, you always get what you always got.
Right? This is true.
You got to try something new. So I really encourage parents to embrace the fact that, you know, you can learn. And number one, you're the leader. You are the leader. You're the leader for your household, for your family first. Then you can be empowered to be leader for other areas and other places in your community. That's just the way I approach it.
Yeah, you got to sweep around your own front door first.
Child, who you telling? I love that.
And I mean, it doesn't mean you're perfect. I mean, I am far from perfect. I'm calling my children all the time because I did something silly or wrong or offended in some way or didn't call or whatever. I mean, it's inevitable.
Right. We're human beings. We're not Jesus. We're all human beings.
Exactly. And they need to see that. They need to see a parent that's willing to say, you know what, I got it wrong. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to do that. I could have done that better. What do you mean? You're apologizing to me? Yes, I am, because I am wrong.
We need to model how to be apologetic. We need to model how to handle conflict. We need to model because, again, when you talk about the schools, you talk about these parents. I had a parent, child got into a fight. The other parent comes in, ready to fight. Like your child jumped my child, and now you want to jump me. So who's modeling what behavior, right? So we have to, you know, first find out why these people are like this, right? Try to meet them where they are. But we have to model, this isn't how you handle conflict, right? We have to be the example to do that and talk about that and be honest about it. And if we don't address our own trauma, our years of untreated trauma, of compound trauma.
Generational.
Thank you. Generational rage, generational everything. We have to address that because we're pouring into these young people, right? And so we're not perfect. We make mistakes. We have brokenness and PTSD and all this other stuff. So where do you think these kids get it from? But if we are able to be vulnerable and allow ourselves to say, sis, I'm hurting. I need some help. I don't know what I'm doing. It's okay to say, you know what? I got these kids. I don't know what the heck I was doing. I had my first kid when I was 20. I was going to kid myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
But now you don't know what you're doing. You're overwhelmed. You're working 3 and 4 jobs. We need to be able to say it's okay and not talk about people and make people feel ashamed and embarrassed because they may have some shortcomings. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
So what I have found in my work with families and with parents is that often the adults don't have the language for the fact that they're hurting, that they've had trauma, that they've experience these adverse impacts in their life. And so when their child has an event in their life, they don't recognize it as being a traumatic event. And they're like, well, this happened to me too. You know, for instance, I know of a situation where a mother as a young person had been molested, and then her daughter as a young person had been molested. And the child was trying to express that, you know, this was a traumatic thing for her. And the mother said, well, it happened to me too. And not even acknowledging her own trauma. Like, yes, this happened, but I basically the effect was, it happened to me, but I got over it.
Do it right.
But you really didn't. But you really didn't.
No.
And so, you know, I'm finding that a lot of us, particularly persons of color, we don't have the language to acknowledge that we've had trauma in our lives, and that because of that, we have parented with that trauma. And our children have experienced, and so they may not have been molested, but because you are hurt,
that thing
and that thing is in your life, it has impacted the way that person parents.
Yeah.
And
no,
so that's
you're
right.
right.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe in licensed professionals. People, we have to destigmatize mental wellness. I don't like to say illness, our mental well-being. We have to prioritize, and I don't care what you have to do. You got to get in front of a licensed professional to address your mental wellness. So then that way you can tap into your light, like you said, JeJuan, and then you can start parenting from a space of light in your home. But you got to get your own self-healing, so then therefore you can pass that healing on and those tools to your children.
I love that. I mean, what you're saying is absolutely spot on in my world. I think that just to piggyback off what you're saying is recognizing, number one, as a people, we haven't been given the luxury of taking the time to have a Selah moment and say,
yes,
what is going on?
Yes.
We are in it
all day, every day.
It's been indoctrinated in our mindset, especially as women.
Yeah.
That we could have it all, we could do it all, we could be it all.
Yeah.
And it's like, at the risk of what?
Right.
At the risk of our mental health,
everything.
At the risk of our
everything, because it starts with you. That you either are the thermometer or the thermostat in your home.
Yes.
As a parent. And you set the temperature.
Yeah.
It was
there's so many times my children would come home from school and they would be like, I could feel the tenseness.
Yeah.
The anxiety, the stress.
Yes.
And we just have to do something fun. Let's just, we got to break this up. I don't know what it is, but there's something going on here. And I may not know exactly, but as a parent, you feel it. You feel that energy coming into this home, and we're not having this.
I used to say in my house, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Okay.
Yep, we say that too.
But we have to change that mindset. I was going to say that Zora Neale Hurston said that Black women are the mules of the world because we carry everything on our backs. And we have this trope of being the strong Black woman. Well, I'm breaking that. Because that's generational. Like I break, I bend, I cry. And there are times when I just have to take to my bed, and I do. And I do, and I give myself permission to feel whatever it is that I'm feeling. I have days after I lost my parents. I had days where I just didn't want to deal that day. And I laid in my bed and I gave myself permission to do that, to just lay in my bed and just think about it. Just think about it. And so now there are days when I'm just not feeling my best. And I may have 5 million things going on that I need to do, but I just take some time. If it ain't nothing but 30 minutes, I just take some time to just sit, feel it, acknowledge that I'm feeling it, and say, okay, what you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it,
That's
Karen?
right.
What are you gonna do about it? And if you need to feel this, just sit down for a second before you go on to the next thing and not acknowledge that you're feeling this. So, I'm breaking that strong Black woman thing. Like,
No,
I'm not putting all of that on my back. I'm not.
no, I agree with you. One of the things that I was taught through my counselor, and he had one of the things that was shared with me when I was going shortly after my husband had, well, it was a long time after my husband had transitioned. One thing he had spoke to me about was, you know what, JeJuan, you've heard of this, and you heard of John Henry, right? I said, yeah, I know about John Henry, the Black guy with the, with the railroad and blah, blah, blah. I know that. He says, did you know that there's a syndrome called the John Henry syndrome? And that syndrome tends to be very prevalent in Black women.
Yeah.
And what happens is that you take on so much and you keep doing so much until you just drop.
Yes.
And he says, you are very close
to dropping. Wow.
You've got to take a hold of what's really important for you.
Right.
And I said, that's not happening here. I just, like you said, I said that it stops here.
That's right.
So whatever it takes to keep my peace, whatever it takes to keep me in a place of where I'm growing and I'm finding myself functional, I'm engaged. If it means, like you said, taking a moment and just resting in my room and not even going anywhere or doing anything. I grew up at a time where, you do nothing and it's like, oh, idle hands are
lazy, right?
No, you're late. Exactly. Lazy. And I'm like, no, I need this rest and learning how to rest. I can't remember the woman's name who's written a book on rest recently, but she really promotes that in such a way that I just really embrace, because I think it's so important that we learn how to rest and recharge. I mean, scientifically, it's been proven that that is the best time for us to be able to get the strength and the energy we need, is if we take those moments. We need it.
Yes.
For effectiveness, for being able to be the best parent for your children, the best wife or husband for your spouse, whatever it takes. You need to unplug and take
the best person for yourself.
That part.
For your, exactly.
So you can be that
First of all, for yourself. You're doing it for you, but everybody else will get the ripple effect benefits of that.
Yeah, you got to set healthy boundaries. One thing, I want to say two things. One, I want to make a little joke about the kids, right? When you were saying how the kids come home and everything. So one thing that I used to do with my children, my youngest son, he's like the last, he's the golden child, Eddie Murphy. And so every year he would have a birthday party. I would have a block party, and we would play old school games, jacks, Foursquare, double dutch. Girl, these kids, they know how to turn the rope. They ain't know how to do any of those old school games, girl. And then my low budget self, I didn't have a whole bunch of little bags to do the legged race, girl. We tied up Walmart and Kroger bags around each other. And the requirement was you could not drop your kid off and leave. You had to stay.
Okay, good.
One kid, two parents, one parent, I don't care. You had to stay. So we had fathers against sons, moms against dads. It was so much fun, girl. And we did it every year. And it got to the point where everybody just looked forward to doing that until my kid got like to maybe, 7th to 8th grade. He was like, okay, mom, I'm too big. I'm too big for this. Right. You know what I'm saying? But when you got kids coming around talking about, Miss Hardrick, you gonna have a party again this year? That's community.
Awesome.
You know what I'm saying?
You hit a spot. You hit that spot.
Yes.
You asking me what to do. You're the one with the answers. Look at you.
Oh, girl,
You're doing it, girl.
I grew up with a village, honey. I grew up with a village, and that's what I
took what you have. You took your community and you invested what you knew and what you had. And I think if each of us does that in our own unique way, that makes all the difference right there. That reconnects us.
Absolutely.
I remember when my husband and I were, he was the president of the NAACP in Gwinnett.
That's where I was going next, girl. That's why you made Black history, right? You and your husband. Tell us about that.
Oh, that was a journey. But I just say that we started the youth council during that season, he and I together, Gwinnett NAACP Youth Council. And I remember us having discussions as a couple, thinking of, because he was president and I was secretary, and I would say, okay, John, we're going to have these meetings. We've got to do meetings on the same day. We can't have parents coming twice in a row. You know how hard it is for us to come to stuff. So we do the parent meeting and the youth meeting at the same time so they don't have to come back. And so when we would do events, if we would have like a special gala or something like that, we would make sure that the students were invited to the gala so they could learn how to conduct themselves, learn what to look forward to set up their table, talk about the council and what they're doing and how they're engaged and what their vision is for their county. All of those things are so important. And even letting them serve as a mistress and master of ceremony to be able to share information and introduce different speakers and such, because we feel like those are things that are going to teach them and train them for their next steps. And, I just think it's so important as adults, what we're doing and what I feel like we missed the ball on in some regards is continuing that legacy and keeping those things going and keeping it alive within our community. And so if we can bring back, what that looks like for us in each area, I think that can probably be helpful.
Okay. Well, JeJuan, it was always nice talking to you, girl. It is just a plethora of information.
Yeah,
I
do have to ask before we go. I do have to ask, with the Gwinnett NAACP, did you and your husband restart the chapter?
Yes, we restarted it. We didn't begin. He was a part of the initial board that started it.
Okay.
This was 1990 something. I think it was Dr. Reverend Irvin Kimball was the president at that season.
Okay.
And I think John was maybe a secretary or he served in some office. At that time, I had 4 children and I did not really care about what he was doing with those things. I did not know all that stuff because he was very involved in that component of it. And I think that's really good. But when there came a time in the I think it was 19, no, it was 2003. About 2003, shortly after he had retired from the Hyatt Regency. He worked as personnel director there for over 20 years. And so when he had gone through that transition and retired, he was asked if he would mind coming and to reactivate the branch at that time.
Okay. But you guys did start the youth program.
Together we started the youth council because when we realized that there was never a youth council, I always thought there was, but when there wasn't, I said, well, how are you going to have sustainability if you don't reach down to the students and the parents? The only way you're going to have sustainability is to really have that influx of parents and students coming back in.
Because once the old guard leaves, there's nothing there.
Yes. And so we started and we reactivated or started the youth council with a college tour that we took students on for colleges in Gwinnett, in Georgia. And so we planned it out. It was he and I were the only chaperones, which was crazy. And then we had our 4 children and we had about 16 other children go on the tour with us. And it was amazing. They learned so much. They got to learn about themselves, about the different schools here in Georgia, because many of them claimed they didn't want to go to Georgia schools. I said, well, do you even know of any? Have you gone to any? And so, we did that. And we also included taking them to like the Apex Museum. And to the historical sites downtown Atlanta, because it's really not enough to just go to a college. Why are you going? Why is it important for you to have an education and go further, And so those are the things that we really put an emphasis on in when we were doing it in that season and time.
Okay. My last question.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do to protect your peace? As we speak about mental wellness, we love to make sure we leave people with inspiration on how they can protect their peace. So share with our viewers, what do you do? What's your go-to mental wellness practice?
Well, I do a lot of journaling. I journal a lot. I write all the time. I enjoy listening to good preaching. I enjoy having just some time to go travel When I can, I love to visit different places and explore different things. I also, for me, my idea of fun is a little different because I like to learn new things. So
Mhm.
right now I'm in the midst of taking a class. Called a creative leadership class,
Okay.
and
Mhm.
it's stretching me. It's forcing me to think beyond myself and grow. So that's a really good experience that was given to me as a gift from my daughter. So
Okay.
I just, things like that, anything that pours into me and helps me build. And I will sleep in a minute. It doesn't take me so I can, I'll be driving or sitting down somewhere and I'm out. So I just,
Mhm.
I'll take a rest in no time, and
Okay.
those are things that I like to do.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for that.
Yes.
You're
And
welcome.
JeJuan, how can our viewers and listeners get in contact with you?
I think that one of the best ways is by email.
Okay.
I have a I do have a LinkedIn page, so you can go
Okay.
there as well. It's my name, JeJuan Stewart.
Okay.
Um, I do have separate pages that tie into Eagle 7, and you can connect as well there. I will be offering some classes. I have one coming up actually this Saturday at the Centerville Community Center.
Okay.
I do pep talks there. That will be a pep talk class being offered there. You can register online for that. It's at the center at GwinnettCounty.com. So you can find it there. It's pep talks. And the other way that you can probably, my email address is JeJuan@JeJuan.co. I do have a landing page, I think they call it landing page. My kids try to tell me all this stuff. And so the landing page is www.JeJuan.co.
Okay.
And you will find more information about me personally and some of the things that I do.
All right. And so we will have all of your contact information up on the website, and then wherever we're posting on YouTube, and where we also post for the audio version where folks can listen as well.
No, I
But
appreciate it. Thank you.
oh,
Can I,
thank
can I just
you.
put a plug in about our foundation? Do you mind?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say we are really thankful. We have our foundation is the John and JeJuan Stewart Jr. Foundation. We have two programs under that. One that is our Saturday Enrichment Academy, and we've been partnering with Shiloh Christian Church, and
Okay.
Pastor Orlando Scott has been very gracious
Yes,
to
I've met
meet
him.
there. He is just a wonderful gentleman, and so we've been meeting there for the past year. Through there, we it's really been cool. I currently am looking for students if they have any parents with students that are interested in robotics, learning more about robotics. We have 4 robotics teams
Okay.
that students can be a part of. So you
Okay.
can find that information online. It is www.jjsjfoundation.com. And I would love to, speak with parents and about that. We are just so proud of our students and the coaches that I have working with them. Our plans are to go to the National Society of Black Engineers Conference coming up in March.
Okay.
And
All
so
right.
we're excited to
Amazing.
provide
Yeah.
students access
Mhm.
to that opportunity. We're all about that. So
All right.
thank
Love it.
you.
Thank you for joining
Mhm.
us today on this episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat.
Well, we are impacting the world one conversation at a time.
Thank you.